It is time for Tech Tuesday, and this is a segment on the ET Money Show where we talk about the latest tech and we talk about the latest gadgets, we talk about the latest software, and we help you make decisions about whether or not you should go for a product. Because we spend a lot on tech, and we have started spending a lot on tech over the last 5 years or so. You replace a phone every couple of years, or 3 years, or 4 years, and that is a substantial amount of money that you spend. So let's talk about the latest iOS, which is iOS 16. It was showcased, and a beta version has been available with developers and with a few people who've been reviewing it. The question really is, does iOS 16 bring enough to the table for existing Android users to make the switch to Apple, or is it that big a game changer, or is it not? Joining me now to talk about it is Dhananjay Bhosle, and it's an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Dhananjay. Thank you so much for taking the time. What are your initial reactions to this? Is it a landmark shift?
iOS 16 is definitely a very good update. I was expecting that from Apple since years now because I have been an Android user for years. So I wanted something where I will be able to customize my iPhone to an extent where I would be like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And finally, with iOS 16, I can do a lot of things with the iPhone, definitely.
Let's talk about some of those changes, because I think, and as somebody who has used both iPhone as well as Android, the customizability of
Yeah.
the Android is always something that Android users have spoken about very vociferously when you compare iPhone and Android. But before we make this an iPhone, Android, or rather, Apple and
Yeah.
everything else conversation, let's talk about the features that were announced in iOS 16.
Yeah. So iOS 16, it is in developer beta right now. There are a ton of features that we can talk about. I'll just mention some of the best ones. So the major overhaul is in the lock screen. Till iOS 15, lock screen was only for notifications. You could just swipe up and that's it. Notifications and swiping up was the only purpose. But now lock screen gets an actual purpose and you can do a lot of things with it, literally. Like you can have multiple widgets showing you multiple data. You can choose which data you want to see on the lock screen. So you do not even have to unlock the phone to see the data which you selected. It will be right there on the lock screen itself. Now you also get different fonts, different colors for the lock screen time widget that's there. This was never possible with iPhones. Like you could not change font or colors, but now that is possible with iOS 16, and Apple is flaunting this. Like you can have uh, a wallpaper and you can change the time of that on the lock screen to that wallpaper's color, like something matching, or you can have something unique and change colors and fonts. You can have depth effect with wallpapers. Now this is something which is very interesting. This can be a very small thing, but it works out so well. So let's assume you have wallpaper of your dog and the dog is in the picture. So on Android phones, if you keep that lock screen wallpaper, then the time will be above the dog. But on iOS 16, you get an option where you can change the time and you can have the time cut behind the dog itself. Like whichever the subject, it can be dog, it can be a person, and it gives a depth effect in the lock screen itself, which looks really cool. But my personal favorite feature in the lock screen change is the dynamic wallpaper, where you can simply swipe up and you can get an effect which is something which iOS users have definitely never experienced. You can simply get you can use earth wallpaper, moon, or these are pre-selected by Apple, by the way. So there will be a zoomed out version of earth on the lock screen. As you swipe up, it will zoom into the earth, and that is so cool because the animation is really smooth. And this is all the features that I talked about right now are just for the lock screen. And so you can imagine how many features there are going to be.
No, fair point. I will get into what the Android users will probably say to that in just a bit. But let's talk about some of the other features. There are changes in terms of notifications, right, Dhananjay?
Yes. There are a lot of changes because till iOS 15, the major issue with lock screen was notifications, because notifications were always cluttered. But with iOS 16, Apple has finally done something about this, and all the notifications are at the bottom part of the lock screen now. So as you can see, the lock screen is empty right now. I can just swipe up and get all the notifications. So it is that easy. Lock screen looks clean and the notifications are very easily accessible. So, and there are multiple other things as well. So let's assume there is a cricket match going on and you get score updates regularly. So you will keep on getting notifications every few minutes and it adds up to the notifications. Now, Apple has released something called as Live Activities API, by using which you can have a single widget on the lock screen and that widget itself will keep on updating. You do not have to receive multiple notifications of the score updates, and you can use that in multiple other applications as well, such as you book a cab. Then the time for the cab to come to your place, that can be shown on the lock screen itself.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So notifications are getting smarter, and
Yes.
essentially on the lock screen again, this is what we're talking about in terms of notification, right?
Yes.
Live text. This is something that I think Apple is flaunting because it allows a lot of people. I think in the media industry also we'll find it quite useful. I think
Yes.
when we're transcribing things, right?
Absolutely. I personally use this feature a lot and I absolutely love this feature. Till iOS 15, this feature was only available for image formats. Like you click a photo and you can copy the text from the image. For people who do not know what live text feature is, basically if you click an image and if there is any text in the image format, you can simply long press on that image and you can copy that text. iOS 15 will automatically detect and it will copy that text and you can paste anywhere. But with iOS 16, Apple has taken it to next level and you can do this now with videos as well, where you can pause a video, long press on the video. If there is any text, iOS 16 will automatically detect it and you will be able to copy that text and paste it anywhere else.
Point. So this is an interesting one. There are several others, but I want to skip to ones that I think are interesting because you've mentioned haptic feedback in the keyboard, but I think that has always been there. Has that not been the case, or?
No, that Apple never had haptic feedback in keyboards with iOS 16. That's the first time. I know as an Android user, that's like that was a surprising fact for a lot of people because how come haptic feedback it's not there in keyboard? But yeah, that was not there earlier. Now it's there with iOS 16.
Oh, interesting. And we're also playing a video on the screen where you're picking up a subject from a picture and you're copy pasting it into a text. Is that possible with all images?
Yes, that's possible with all the images as long as you have a prominent subject in the photo. Like you must be seeing a dog in the photo right now, or if I click my own photo and if I want to click myself out of the photo, take myself out of the photo, then that is possible as well. You just have to tap and long press. iOS 16 will automatically detect the subject. I tried it, and even on the developer beta version, it works really good.
So the other one is editing of the iMessage, and I know for a fact that in several other markets where Apple is predominantly used, a lot of people choose to use the iMessage rather than other social messaging applications. So this is quite interesting. You can now edit an iMessage, right?
Yes, you can edit messages. You can also unsend messages in iMessage. So this has been a very much requested features with iOS 15. We saw groups coming to iMessage. Now unsend messages and editing messages feature is already there.
I want you to now come to the culmination of this, and it has to be a very quick wrap. Is this a reason for somebody to switch out of Android? Because a lot of what you've said, an Android user will say, hey, you know what? I already have this.
Yes, that's true. iOS 16 is definitely a very good update for all the Apple users out there the people who have iPhones already. But for someone who has an Android flagship device, I don't really think iOS 16 is good enough of an update to switch from Android to iOS directly. That would be a big leap of faith.
Okay, well, on that note, Dhananjay, thank you so much for taking the time. Pleasure speaking with you.